Depends on whatever's in season is one she likes.
That's good. That's good.
Yes.
I'd like to bring the meeting to order if you would all stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Now I turn your mic on.
Hello? Hello? Okay.
You're on.
Actually, we'll do roll call first and then I'll do mine. Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman,
Here. Here.
Mr. Manfredi,
Here.
Mrs. Miller,
Here.
Mrs. Stone. Here. And Mr. Wadsworth.
Here. Okay, before we go to the next point of business, I wanted to do a moment of silence. One of our former board members, 99 years old, Richard Dick Dean, passed away on October 2nd. He had been on the board almost 20 years. And one of the things that he fought for, much like I did, only it was this building, was he fought, and it took him a great deal of time to get the addition put on to the former high school, to bring them into when Linda would have been in school and I would have been in school. That's a long
Yeah.
time ago. Sorry.
I took the-
So
I
if you
actually got
don't
the
mind,
keys.
if we just do a moment of silence for him, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. I need a first and a second for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Dan,
I'll second it.
Linda, any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Berman,
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stone. Yes. Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Okay, approval of the minutes. I'll make the motion and I need a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Beth, please.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stone. Yes. Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
And Mr. Berman.
Yes.
John, student staff presentation.
Okay, this month, the staff presentation is going to be the State of Schools presentation. So I am going to take the next several minutes and give you an update on the state of schools. What we'll do is I'll give you a quick executive summary of what we're going to go through in terms of the state of schools. So we will first discuss our strategic plan. In that strategic plan, we laid out our mission, our vision, and our areas of focus. We'll talk about the goals that we set last year going into this year, discuss how we did on those goals, and then we'll get a financial overview. That'll actually happen after the state of schools because Mrs. McCaffrey will do that as a part of her 5-year forecast presentation. I'll give you an update on enrollment trends for the district, some of our programs and initiatives, and then a conclusion. So without further ado, I want to jump right into our strategic plan. 2 years ago, we had a large community group, about 40 people, and several board members and a few people in the audience were on that team, where we took a look at what we wanted the district to look like in the future. So as a part of that strategic plan, we created a new set of core values, really just reaffirmed and articulated those core values. So the core values that we listed were I'm sorry, I'm trying to character and integrity, community relationships, career readiness, trust, excellence, respect, and accountability. My eyes are getting a little old, so I had to zoom that in a little bit. Sorry about that. And then also a part of that strategic planning process, we decided to create some areas of focus for ourselves. And then some of those areas of focus, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit on those areas of focus, were strong academic excellence, were involvement of the community and families in more events to bring them into the school, inter-school relationships and creating greater interconnectedness, communication with non-family stakeholders and people that are outside the building, alumni relationships, and an emphasis on meritocracy. We wanted to give students opportunities to be successful and to take advantage of that. So we want to make sure that we emphasize meritocracy as a standard here. And then we redefined our mission as being that the Berkshire Local Schools exist to encourage lifelong learning, inspire students' highest achievement, and prepare critical thinkers who embody leadership, character, and citizenship. And then our vision was that we would become the premier school district, universally recognized for dynamic student-centered learning, innovative pathways for future readiness, risk-taking, collaborative partnership, and the accomplishments which enable our children to thrive in the real world. So we want to encourage, inspire, and prepare and have our students ready to compete in the real world. We set 3 goals last year. Goal 1 was related to student achievement. We wanted to improve our academic performance by 10% in all areas by the end of the 24-25 school year. Goal 2 was to establish and monitor cross-grade level collaboration practices. And goal 3 was to improve our overall communication and strengthen relationships with alumni, families, and community members. So let's jump right into goal 1 in student achievement. So when we talk about student achievement, a lot of what I'm going to reference is on the Ohio School Report Card. I do want it to be noted that our kids are more than just the test score. And so we do a lot more with them than test scores. But because the Ohio School Report Cards are produced, we think it's an important measure, and it's important for us to focus on it and grow in terms of that report card. So just as a quick overview of how schools are rated in Ohio, every individual school building and every school district receives an overall star rating between 1 and 5 in half-star increments. And those ratings are determined by 6 categories. So academic, or the achievement component, is one category that's worth 25% of the overall grade. Achievement is essentially all the tests that are taken from grades 3 through 10. Then there's a progress component. That's another 25%. That's the value added each year for the students. There's a graduation component. That's 12.5% of the overall report card. There's a college, career, workforce, and military readiness component, another 12.5%. An early literacy component, that's 12.5%. And then a gap closing component, which measures how much we're shrinking the gap for those lowest students to the highest students each year. That's another 12.5%. And then if you define each of the star or half-star increments by the state, a 1-star district would need significant support to meet state standards. A 1.5-star district also needs significant support to meet state standards. If you receive 2 stars, you need support. 2.5 stars also need support to meet state standards. A 3-star district meets all state standards. 3.5-star district also meets state standards. When you get to 4 stars, you're exceeding state standards. And again, 4.5 stars also exceeding. And if you're a 5-star district, it means you're significantly exceeding state standards. So in terms of where we are at Berkshire, last year, the 2024 report card, we were overall at a 4-star district, which exceeds state standards. In the achievement component, we were at 3 stars, met state standards. Progress, we were at 3 stars, met state standards. In the gap closing, we were at 4 stars, which is exceeding state standards. Graduation component, we were at 4 stars, exceeding state standards. Early literacy, we were at 3 stars, meeting state standards. And then the college, career, workforce, and military readiness indicator was not yet rated in terms of last year. So that's 12.5% of the report card that wasn't included yet. This year, Berkshire, again, is a 4-star district. And in achievement, we're still at 3 stars, meeting state standards. In progress, we're still at 3 stars, meeting state standards. In gap closing, we're still at 4 stars, exceeding state standards. In the graduation rate, we grew from 4 to 5 stars, which significantly exceeds state standards. In early literacy, we dropped back a little from 3 to 2 stars, which needs support to meet state standards. I'll dive into that with a big chunk of our time here in just a second. And then in the college, career, workforce, and military readiness indicator, we were at 5 stars, significantly exceed state standards. That's really a high school. The high school drives that rating. There are 799 high schools in the state of Ohio. Only 86 received a 5-star in that component, meaning that Berkshire High School is in the top 10.8% of high schools in the state of Ohio that prepares our children for the future. We're going to dive right into, in terms of goal 1, our elementary school area of focus. So early literacy was rated 2 stars on this current report card. A couple of factors leading into that. One, in the 23-24 school year, we implemented new curricular materials based on the science of reading. So during the year before that, every district was told they were going to have to implement, if their curriculum wasn't on the state-approved list, the materials we were using were not. So we switched to a set of materials on the state-approved list and started that implementation in the 23-24 school year. With that implementation, there was a diagnostic testing change. So what we at the time weren't acutely aware of is a large portion of the early literacy rating is how students improve from kindergarten to 1st grade, and then from 1st to 2nd grade, and then from 2nd to 3rd grade, and then from 3rd to 4th grade. And what we did was in the 23-24 school year, we were using the diagnostic from the old materials. In the 24-25 school year, we were using diagnostic from the new material. So not exactly apples to apples, a little bit apples to orange. But at the same time, the new materials created new processes for the teachers and for the students. It also created a new sequencing of learning. So the building blocks at kindergarten were starting to be taught in a little bit different order than they had been in the past. And I'm going to go through some specific data to show where we recognize that, what we've done, and how we've adjusted for next year and into the future. Those new sequences created some instructional gaps. We really didn't notice those gaps until the diagnostic at the beginning of last school year. So that diagnostic helped us notice where the gaps are, but at the same time, that diagnostic is also what's used to determine the growth from the year before. So everything that we did last year won't be reflected until next year's report card. So we did implement several strategies to address those. And when we talk about improving K-3 literacy, it's based on that diagnostic test that's given at the beginning of each school year. So I'll go through some data to kind of illustrate that. And hopefully we can see this well out there. But this is our current 4th graders. So during the 23-24 school year, they were in grade 2 during the first year of implementation of the new curricular materials. You can see that they were at about 39% of them on that early diagnostic were reading below grade level. Last year at the beginning of the year, we noticed that dropped to 31%. So that actually was a positive because we had fewer kids reading at grade level. But what we were able to do was identify learning gaps, start to fill those gaps during strategies of success time, and really backfill. It wasn't really the current 4th graders who we saw the most gaps were. It's the younger kids where they didn't get the majority of the kindergarten and first grade is where you would see the building block skills. But then this year, at the beginning of September, probably second week of school, we took the diagnostic again. So we noticed again that gap is shrinking. So we are having fewer kids, fewer of our current fourth graders are reading below grade level. If we look at our current third graders, they were in first grade when the new curricular materials were implemented. This is where we noticed the biggest variance, because they didn't get the new materials in kindergarten that laid out the new building blocks. So they were missing some of those building blocks, which we couldn't identify until they came back the next year and we took that diagnostic. So they jumped from 29% of those kids being below grade level up to 34%. That's where we really started focusing on where they were deficient, back building those skills. And then this year, at the beginning of the year, that's dropped to 22%. So dropped from the 34 down to 22. The other big thing we've noted is we're growing this green and this teal color, meaning these are the highest achievement levels. Those levels are now greatly growing due to those new strategies in those areas. So that will be reflected, again, because the report card is a year in arrears, that'll be reflected next year. The current second graders, they started kindergarten with the new materials, so there really wasn't a whole lot of backfill they needed. So you can see they've shown steady growth, not as much as we want to see, but they've shown some growth. But this really, the kindergarten teachers, it was their first year, also the students' first year in those new materials. But again, growth, and then we're seeing some stretching at the top levels as well. And our current first graders, when they came into kindergarten last year, this was the second year in a row for the kindergarten teachers. And it was also, we had those strategies for success in place. But when they walked in our doors, 52% of them were reading below grade level. There's not a whole lot we can do about that, because unless they went to our preschool, we really didn't have them. But if you notice, this year, in those first couple of weeks of school, when they took that diagnostic, that shrunk to 18%. So it shows that the teacher's second year in this program, the students' familiarity with it, and then are attacking this through strategies of success have really driven down that number of kids that are reading below grade level. Again, this will be a positive reflection next year's report card. Not a lot is going to be done about this year's report card. The report card is kind of like an autopsy. It's after the fact. This is what happened. So I'm showing you what we have done last school year and how it's already showing dividends for this school year early on. And then this year's current kindergartners who just took that diagnostic mid-September. So a little bit better than last year. That we brought them in, and 37% of them were reading below grade level. But again, our goal is to drive that number down every year so that by the end of third grade, they're reading on grade level. Then they can start reading to learn instead of learning to read. So some takeaways from that: our interventions are working. We're seeing improvements. Those positive gains will be reflected on our next state report card. And then we'll continue to grow from there and continue to focus on the elementary school. The past several years, we've had a pretty intense focus on the high school and the career pathways. And now we're going to shift that a little bit and make sure that the elementary gets the focus it needs so that we can see the same growth there that we've seen at the high school, which I'll talk about here in just a second when we get to the high school. In terms of middle school, some quick highlights from the middle school. They have several school recognitions, including being awarded a purple ribbon school for celebrating military families, bronze in PBIS, multiple leadership programs for students, and then clubs and activities for students to be a part of. Once they get to that middle school, early adolescent level, they need to feel a sense of belonging, have something that they're attached to. And then in terms of the report card, the individual report card rating for our middle school was 3.5 stars. And then on the middle school only has 3 areas that they're rated on. So I'll make that a little bit bigger. They're rated on gap closing, progress, and achievement. They don't have early literacy in middle school. They don't have graduation rate. They don't have the career, college, military, and workforce readiness. So they had met state standards in all those areas. So they were at 3.5s, really close to climbing up to 4, but not quite there yet. And then, in terms of the high school, and the high school has kind of really carried the day for us on this last report card. And the high school was rated 4.5 out of 5 stars on the latest report card. So that's a significant improvement over the year before. Last year's high school report card was 3.5 stars. So that 4.5 stars puts Berkshire High School in the top 22% of all high schools statewide based on the report card score. And then, as I mentioned, that 5 stars in the college, career, workforce, and military readiness, only 86 of 799 high schools achieved that rating. So that puts them in the top 10.8% in that category. The high school also made improvements from 4 stars to 5 stars in graduation rate, from 3 stars to 4 stars in progress. And the performance index at the high school was an 81.3 this year, which is up from 77 last year and 75.9 the year before. So again, an increase in the performance index. So the high school all around is really excelling. And when we talk about programs and those things a little bit later, you'll see some areas where not only statewide, but nationwide, we're starting to be recognized. Since I talked about performance index, I want to bring that up because these are district-wide scores. This is our district-wide performance index. The performance index accounts for the level of achievement of every student. It's not just whether they're proficient. Each test a student takes is assigned an achievement level based on that test score, with higher test scores resulting in higher achievement levels. So you can see for the past 5 years, we have a steady increase in the performance index, which means the overall achievement level of all of the students in our district is gradually rising. Now, would we want to see that rise at a higher rate? Absolutely, we would. But we are also intently focused on more real-world skills than test-taking skills. So what we're seeing is the real-world skills are helping us, and they are driving those test-taking skills up. The model that we have implemented is starting to work. What you want to see is this bottom dark blue is limited, and then the lighter blue is basic, the red is proficient, the yellow is accomplished, the green is advanced, and then the kind of darker green on top of that is advanced plus. Obviously, limited is the lowest level. You want to shrink that as much as possible. And then you want your proficient, your accomplished, and your advanced to grow as much as possible. And then this advanced plus, what that means is you have to be accelerated and also score advanced on that test. So if I'm a 7th grader, but I'm accelerated to 8th grade math or 8th grade science, and I'm taking that grade's test, I'm taking the 8th grade test as a 7th grader, and I score advanced, then I get advanced plus. So you see, we had none of those in 2023, and then in 24 and 25, we start to get more, and that's from challenging our more advanced learners to move up and hit those scores. So overall improvement there. So what we see is we did not hit that 10% goal in every area. So we want to go back, refocus, try to hit that 10% or more in some areas. We exceeded the 10% goal in a lot of the areas at the high school, and then we really hit that goal at the middle school. So what we want to do is continue to aspire for another 10% increase over the previous year, and continue to work to get better in terms of how we're performing on those statewide tests. Goal 2 was that cross-grade level collaboration. So I want to share just some of the different cross-grade level initiatives we had this year, and really highlight some of the things that we've done. One of the things we did was called a wax museum. So the pictures you see are some of our 6th graders, and they are sitting with a 1st grader. And the 6th graders had a historical figure that they had to learn as much as they could and teach facts about that historical figure to a 1st grader. And so that was the collaboration. So we got middle school students working with elementary school students. We also had our high school speech classes going to the kindergarten classes to read to the kindergartners. So then we got high school and elementary school collaboration. We did multiple district-wide parades. We did St. Patrick's Day. We had a Gold Day parade. We've had Earth Day. We had some holiday parades where our elementary school students parade around the building while the middle and high school students are out in the hallway celebrating those students and helping with their parade. Things that you really can't do if you're not in a, in a district such as us or building such as us. We have several district-wide makerspace projects where I'll just go through and point at a couple. So this particular picture in the top corner, we had middle school students who painted these murals on this conference room that's right across from the makerspace. Below that, we have these students in the makerspace who created the sponsorship decals for the hurdles for track. We have this student who created all these different items that are sold in our spirit shop by the Badger Lab. High school chemistry students in the makerspace that created Christmas tree ornaments based on the periodic table of elements. We have these middle schoolers who created this really awesome tile mural, which is now displayed and hanging on the wall at the middle school. These students were creating the cornhole boards, and we use those for the different events that we have here, after prom and dances and other events. And they made several of those cornhole board sets. We have students working on Chromebook repairs in the makerspace, and it gives them practice and skill taking apart and putting things together, as well as kind of saving us on some repair dollars. And then we had this really large conference table that our students stripped down and refinished in the makerspace, and it's now in our special ed conference room. We have some excellent traditions that we've started across the district. So this particular picture is of some kindergarten students planting a tree. Each year since the first year we've come here, the kindergarten teachers have led the students in planting a tree out by the playground. The idea is that when these students get to their senior year, they can take several pictures with the tree that they planted. It could be a really cool graduation ceremony for them when they get to that point. We also last year had a special clap out for some of our retiring teachers, where they could just kind of run down the hallway and slap hands with all the kids that they've had through all their years of teaching. This picture is our fourth grade leadership lap. That was the tradition of the fourth graders kind of taking a final lap to signify the end of their elementary and going into their middle school years. We have an eighth grade clap out. Again, similar idea, celebrating the end of eighth grade and the entry into high school. This picture shows some high school athletes. Anytime our athletes are competing at a state competition, we'll do a clap out. They'll run through the whole building, and K through 12, all of our students will celebrate and send them on their way. This picture is of the high school toga day. So we've started a tradition each September. Actually, it's during Spirit Week. Sometimes it's September, sometimes it might be a little later, where the Friday of Spirit Week is toga day for the seniors, and they have a toga lap around the school. You can see the looks on the kids' faces, how they were excited to slap seniors' hands as they come around. And then the largest culminating activity pictured here, where after their graduation practice on their last official day of school in this building, in their caps and gowns, our students will parade through the hallways with all the students in grades K through 11 out to kind of celebrate, slap their hands, cheer for them as they walk around in their final lap of the school in the district. Some district-wide give back projects we have. We had the Badger Lab who do the 48 hours of hunger project. So they package food, enough food to last. We have families who we've identified as needing support to get through the weekend, and they pack the bags and they just stuff it in lockers so that students don't have to worry about being embarrassed. They just go to their locker at the end of the day. When they open it, there's a bag in there. They take it. There's no big fanfare, but it helps them get through the weekend and not have to worry about that 48 hours, being hungry. They get through the weekend. We also had a food drive district-wide where one of the incentives was you can tape Mr. Katurba, the high school assistant principal, to the wall. Here's another picture of students collecting for the food drive. We had a couple different activities with the Geauga Senior Center. You can see these young people here with these Berkshire shirts. We created those shirts so that our seniors who were in the building, everyone knew who they were and why they were here. And then we had high school and middle school kids who would volunteer to walk laps with them around the building. And then we had a senior tech fair where, again, the senior center brought their people here, and then we paired them up with a high school student who would help them set up email on their phones or set up their social media or learn how to check things and work through all the different tech issues they have. Our students wrote letters to troops who are deployed overseas, and then this is a picture of some of those troops kind of getting their letters. And our admin team with Clarendon Community helped prepare multiple Thanksgiving Day meals for some of our families that were then distributed so that everyone could celebrate Thanksgiving. So those are a few of the really cool district give back projects that we have throughout the building. So the goal there is to continue to support those many cross grade level collaborations, and then to look to add some more whole school collaboration as we continue down the road. Goal 3 was to improve communications and strengthen those relationships. So I'm going to give you all the different ways we communicate with our internal stakeholders, so families that are inside the district. We have a superintendent's newsletter. We have principals' newsletters. We have email that go home to families, pre-recorded calls. The elementary and preschool do Dojo. The middle school and high school do Remind. We also have various social media, X and Facebook and Instagram, and we have our website. What we were finding, especially through this strategic planning process, is some of our community members who no longer have kids in the school or who just live in the neighborhood but aren't really connected to the school don't see a lot or aren't getting a lot of the school communication, so they're not really aware of what's going on. So one of the things we tried to do this year was to start the Stodcast, which is a video podcast that I try to do once a month to give a little bit of kind of behind the scenes look at some of the things that are going on here, why we do certain things, how things are done. I believe we've got 3 episodes out. Episode 4 will really focus on the state of schools, and it'll be out the end of this month. In addition to that, we also have started putting a monthly publication in the Good News. We realize that every household in Geauga gets the good news, so now we have a late September and a late August and a late September edition that have been out in the Good News, and we'll get a late October out as well. So once a month, everyone in the county will get this nice little update from Berkshire in the Good News. So just some ways that we're trying to get our message out more to a greater audience. And our goal for this year will be to continue to look for more ways to communicate with families in the local community. Really quickly, our financial overview, that Beth is going to take care of that in her 5-year forecast presentation that she'll do here in just a little bit. So I'm going to skip over this for now and give you a quick enrollment overview. In terms of the last several years, if you look at our enrollment numbers, we're pretty steady. It's a positive upward slope in the line. We did have a spike in 22-23, and then a little bit of a dip, but climbing right back up and almost back to those levels. In terms of open enrollment, we saw a really high number in 2020 and 21 school year, and then slightly decreasing each year for a couple of different reasons. One, the incentive for open enroll changed and the state no longer funded open enroll the same. And then 2, we wanted to maintain a certain number of students in each classroom here. So over the past couple of years, we've been able to accept more open enroll students because as our resident enrollment is either stagnant or dropping a little bit, then we can take more open enrollment to make up for that. So you can see that number over the past 3 years has steadily increased. And we still didn't accept every open enroll student this year. There was a waiting list, and there were some people who didn't make it, but we do our best to get as many as we can in each year. If the state changes that incentive, we can find ways to accept more, I think. Some programs and initiatives to talk about. We have our Berkshire Early Childhood Center, which is our preschool. There are 38 students there currently. We have 3 different types of classrooms in the preschool. So we have what we call buddies, explorers, and cubs. And really it is based on the needs of each student. It goes from really severe special needs to largely independent based, and that's kind of how they get placed in those areas. We also have Badger Care, which is before and after school care, which in a lot of places is called Latchkey. But here are just a couple of images from the new Early Childhood Center. Really big, bright classrooms. We have 8 classrooms over there. We also have Jumpstart Preschool in one of our classrooms over there, but you can see kids doing some activities over there, and they are really enjoying the space, and it's working out really well for us. Lots of room to expand, and the program showing some growth over the past couple years. If we look at programs at the elementary school, the Berkshire Elementary was a PBIS Gold School last year, and PBIS is a school-wide approach that aims to create a safe and effective learning environment for all students. There are a range of strategies to help prevent problem behaviors and help kids just become better at what they are. Schools can be awarded gold, silver, or bronze. Not all schools get a rating. In Ohio, there are 3,599 total individual schools. Of those schools, 300 received bronze awards, 98 received silver, and 41 received gold. So Berkshire Elementary was one of only 41 schools in the entire state of Ohio, 3,599, to receive a gold PBIS rating. The elementary school also uses Sources of Strength, which is a program that helps teach students coping skills. The stick-to-itiveness, all the elements of a meritocracy, continue to try your best, continue to work in the face of struggle. Those are the kind of things that Sources teaches kids, self-reliance, those type of things. So we want to build that. And then we implemented that strategies for success time that we talked about, where we help to identify areas where they have some deficiencies and or areas where they can really be enriched, and use that time exactly for those approaches. If we look at Berkshire Middle School was designated a PBIS Bronze School. Again, of the 3,599, only 300 schools received bronze, and Berkshire Middle School was one of those. Berkshire Middle School is also a Purple Star School for supporting military families. They have multiple leadership and support programs at the middle school. They also do Sources of Strength to help with coping skills. They have student council to give students a voice in things that happen in the school. They have Rocks for the girls, which is called Ruling Our Experiences. And then they have Ambassadors of Compassion for the boys. So different programs to help kids learn how to advocate for themselves and really look out for their peers as well. In addition to that, Berkshire Middle School has a host of different athletics and academic clubs, and I'll just let you look at that list on the screen. Don't need to read all those off, but again, we're really looking for ways to get our students involved in things where they can make a connection and they can feel like they belong to something, and we want to have something for anyone in any area that they want. The middle school also implements a strategies for success time where they can target students' weaknesses or amplify their strengths during that time that they're in the school. And then finally, we'll talk about Berkshire High School. Berkshire High School is also a Purple Star school for supporting military families. Berkshire High School also PBIS Bronze, again, one of those 300 schools. And we are one of very few districts who have every school receiving a PBIS award, which is another feather in the cap for our school district. Berkshire High School also has lots of college readiness initiatives. So this sheet shows you the different advanced placement courses that offer college credit and college credit plus courses that offer college credit that are all offered within our school building. Kids never have to leave this building to get any of these opportunities for college credits. In addition to those, they can walk across the parking lot to the Kent State Geauga and get more, or they can go to really the Lakeland or any other college that they want to go to get those opportunities. We also have a lot of different workforce development pathways that we've developed over the past 3 to 4 years that have really helped us earn that 5-star rating and give our kids something real world to work toward and look forward to. So we have the medical assistant program that we work with Kent State, where our students can graduate with their medical assistant certification, which leads to direct employment at university hospitals and then tuition reimbursement for nursing programs. In addition to that, we are partnering with Oman Family Living this year, and Oman is offering our students a 5-week course on the certified nursing assistant area. So our students take that course with them, pass that test, and then Oman will put them on an off shift and pay them $15 an hour in an internship-like setting. And then they can earn micro credentials through Oman. So if they want to go the medical assistant pathway, they can do that through Kent. If they want to go certified nursing assistant, they can do that through Oman. And then both of those can work back to any advanced degree in a medical field that they want to try to attack. We also have started an advanced manufacturing pathway at Berkshire. We offer advanced manufacturing through an Industry 4.0 SACA credential that we have, and SACA stands for Smart Automation Certification Alliance. So the future of manufacturing is smart automation, and that's where we're pushing. We have our mechanical technology program that we're offering in conjunction with Preston, which I'll talk about in a second. We have agribusiness and production that we will culminate with an internship at Great Lakes Cheese. We were one of only 10 high schools in Ohio and the only high school in Northeast Ohio to be selected as Battelle's Manufacturing Pathways Pilot Program. And this is what brought us that Industry 4.0 SACA credentialing. So we converted one of our PBL spaces at the high school into this Industry 4.0 lab. You can see these different pieces of machinery we have throughout the room where kids can learn different principles of automation. This course provides foundational knowledge and hands-on experience in advanced manufacturing, automation, and smart systems integration. And it results in a credential from the Smart Automation Certification Alliance. So something that will be valuable to students as they leave here and go into the career field. Also, we have our Berkshire and Preston Workforce Development Campus, which some of you may remember as the ODOT facility in the past. And you can see that the image here shows this is 87 and this is Rapids Road. And there are several buildings on this campus. I'm going to explain what each one is. So this first building that you'll see here is a kind of a faraway picture of it, but it's the first large garage. The purple section that I outlined is completely run by Preston Auto. So inside this big garage part, they have their commercial repairs fleet. So there are 11 different lifts with a lot of heavy trucks and things in there. And then in this little rectangle is their commercial sales crew. Berkshire's transportation department is in this front part of the building. And then this little section in the middle is like a break room, restroom area that the Berkshire staff and the Preston staff share together. This middle building is this, we call it Building B for right now. This is completely Berkshire run. And right now, this is where our mechanical tech program is. So we have 7 garage bays here and a classroom. You can kind of see this image shows the classroom, and this image is a long shot of the garage bays. We have some lifts in there as well as lots of different tools. And the building in the back corner is a body shop. It was the old ODOT body shop. Preston has renovated it, turned it into their collision repair and paint center. And then our buses and vans are parked in this little yellow rectangle. And then Preston has some overflow parking in this area. And then this nice little area right here is where I just took this picture Friday. This is the new, we're going to call it the Preston Educational Garage that they built for us. 2 garage bays, 2 really large classrooms on either side, 2 meeting rooms in the back, and restrooms in the back. And that's where eventually our diesel mechanics, which we're now calling mechanical tech program, will be housed. As we expand, we'll be able to expand from right now we have 26 students, but we could have 24 in either class. And then we could have an afternoon session. So if we had essentially 50 in the morning, we could add 50 more in the afternoon. So we have spots for 100 students. Right now we have a couple of West Geauga students in this program. And we do have some Crestwood and Ravenna students who want to join the program. We're working with Auburn about creating a satellite program that would push more funding and more students into this program. And then once our diesel or our mechanical tech moves from this building into this building, then this building in the middle will convert to our power systems program. We also have a partnership with Ohio Machinery Company, who own CAT and Peterbilt and some Ford companies and some ag equipment companies. And we are going to start essentially, it teaches kids the principles of working on generators and other really heavy diesel engines that aren't related to transportation. So it'll just be another avenue for kids who have an aptitude for working with their hands, and we'll get them out with usable job skills in areas that are in high demand right now that will allow them to earn a high living wage with no debt. And then if they want to go back to college, they can still do that, and they have a little jump start. So in conclusion, what you've seen here, as you've seen steady growth from the district, growth in terms of steady in academic achievement, steady in program growth, and then steady in adding new opportunities for students. We're sustaining our programs through partnerships. We are continuously improving, and we're continuously looking at different ways, different things we can do. And we're fulfilling our mission and vision. Remember, our mission was to encourage, inspire, and prepare. And our vision was to become the premier school district universally recognized for dynamic student-centered learning, innovative pathways for future readiness, risk-taking, collaborative partnerships, and the accomplishments that will enable our children to thrive in the real world. I think we've demonstrated that we are well on our way to meeting that goal and getting to the point where we want to be. So I believe that we are fulfilling that mission. And now with that, if there's any questions that the board has, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Was a very well done, comprehensive presentation. A lot of good info. Probably a lot of work on your end, but thank you for putting that all together for us.
It's fun to present on the great things we're doing, while also focusing on the things that we didn't do quite as well as we should have, that we have a plan to improve in the future.
As a board member, I just want to say how proud I am of our staff and our administration and our kids, and I think we're doing a great job and willing to try new things and try to make them work.
Okay. Now we're at public participation, Mr. Manfredi.
Thank you. At this time, if you want to address the board, you want to come up to the podium down there and speak into the microphone. What we ask is that you be respectful and address the board. Okay. Treasurer's report.
The treasurer has submitted a statement to the board and to the superintendent showing the revenues and receipts, the sources derived, the various appropriations made by the board, the expenditures and disbursements, the purposes and balances remaining in each fund. The financial statements for the period ending September 2025 have been submitted subject to audit and includes the financial summary, appropriations and revenue summary, check register recap, and bank reconciliation. I have a motion to approve the following donations. Solid Rock, on which we stand, donated $1,000 to special education. Vinnie's of Middlefield donated $150 towards the cross-country team dinner. We had an anonymous donation into the Educational Foundation for $25,000. Burton Congregational Church donated $200 to the Shire Shack. The Mary Blaha Memorial Fund donated $500 to the Elementary PBIS Fund. And the Kiwanis Club of East Geauga donated $600 total, $200 each to the high school, middle school, and elementary PBIS.
So moved.
Dan,
Second.
Brian, any further discussion?
That's awesome. Amazing.
We love that people support the work that we're doing. And through John's presentation, obviously, you see that we are not standing still, that we continue to improve what we offer our children, whether it be curriculum or work programs. And that will continue because of the people that are willing to donate towards our school children. Any further discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mr. Berman,
Yes.
and Mr. Manfredi.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the following financial amendments? We had an additional $13,395 to Title IV.
I'll make the motion.
Jody,
Second.
Dan, any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth,
Yes.
Mr. Berman,
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi,
Yes.
and Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do a short 5-year forecast presentation. So before we get to the numbers, House Bill 96 has changed the requirements of the 5-year forecast. It's now a 4-year forecast. So for fiscal year 2026, we're required to do the forecast by October 15th, which you'll remember typically we did this in November. And then they've upped the date of the May forecast to February 15th. In fiscal year 27, those dates are going to change again, and we'll be on a cycle of August 15th, which is very confusing, to be perfectly honest with you, because sometimes we're not even done hiring by then, because we don't start school till September. So, and then we'll have another forecast on February 15th. So John and I have both talked about this, and we feel that these new rules kind of diminishes the usefulness of this forecast to the board. So we'll continue to update the board in May and give them updates throughout, because like the August, I'm really not, there's so much still up in the air in August. I mean, even to get the this forecast done for October, we really had to predict some things. So the next slide, we're going to talk about the purposes and objectives. So, the purpose of the forecast is to engage the board and the community in talking about our finances. It does serve a purpose. I am required to sign a 412 certificate for any contract we enter, and so this helps me perform that duty. And then it also provides a method for the Ohio Department of Education and the Auditor State's Office to identify future problems with districts. So you guys know I always like to judge myself on how I did. So this table will presents the financial comparison between what I forecasted in May and where we ended up with actuals for fiscal year '25. So you can see revenues were up slightly by about $11,000, which was 0.05% off. Expenditures increased by almost $73,000, and that's roughly 0.31% off. So a relatively minor shift when you look at a $23 million budget. So the combined variance between the revenue and expenditures is just over 84,000, which is a 0.36% of the total budget.
Do
So
better.
I was pretty pleased with that. You're not asleep at the wheel. So moving on to future revenue predictions. So in fiscal year '26 and beyond, I'm showing pretty stable growth in income tax. And then right now, our only growth that we're seeing in any revenues is for tuition-based students to those outside districts. So Dr. Stutter talked about we have two West Geauga kids participating in our career tech. And so we do collect tuition for that. We have some special needs children in our Badger lab that we're collecting tuition. So we do see growth in that. And then in fiscal year '27, you can see my numbers comparing to last May are about $500,000 more. Looking at home sales for the county, I'm going to bump up our real estate growth to 12%. Previously, I had 8%. So, of course, with any revenue item, we really monitor it daily, to be honest with you. And we have to respond if we see any numbers coming in less than what predicted. So this next pie chart represents the funding as a percentage. And you can see that local taxpayers are funding 68% of our schools right now. And state sources are at 32%. I always like to point out to the board that Berkshire is unique in that we have 13% of our total acreage or properties that's exempt from taxation. An exemption means that it belongs to a government, a church, a park. So the city of Akron alone owns 6,000 acres in our district that represents about $9.7 million in assessed value. Essentially, we don't have a whole lot of room for growth as far as real estate goes in our district. And like I say to people, that's one of the reasons that many of us choose to live in this district is because we want that rural setting. The next slide, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the Orwell Trumbull pipeline. As a reminder, in fiscal year '21, the pipeline sold its assets separately from the liabilities, and revenue was lost on $1.1 million of utility values. The current delinquency just to Berkshire is a little over $900,000. It's a $12 million delinquency to the county as a whole. The county prosecutor did file a complaint in May of '24 regarding the unpaid delinquent taxes. In March of '25, Judge Sheehan ruled that Geauga County had no basis for a claim as they were notified of the sale in '19, and they made no claim. So since that ruling came down in April of 2025, Geauga County filed an appeal, and briefs were due on September 12th. So we're still waiting the court's decision on that. And I check daily. So moving on to expenditures, Fiscal year 26 through 29, salaries increased due to one new administrative position. And then we added a board-certified behavior analysis, which in hiring that person, our purchase services will come down because we don't have to contract out for it. And then we had 6 new teaching positions that replaced the 6 retirees. And then we've hired 6 additional aides for high-need students. And then we did have salary increase due to the negotiated agreement. So if you, John, if you could go back one slide. So if you see the red numbers in 27, 20, 29, red numbers on the expenditure side means a good thing. So that is showing the effect of those high dollar teachers retiring, and we're bringing in new teachers at a lower rate. This next slide shows the percentages by expenditure class. So, you know, as you would expect in any service industry, 65% of the cost is going towards salaries and benefits. This slide shows the big picture of the district. So you can see since 2003, we've been deficit spending, meaning that we're spending more money that we're taking in. And you can see that we're dipping close to 0 in fiscal year 27. And then in 28, we're in the negative. And then another way to look at this is ending balance based on the days of cash that you have left. So you can see in 2025, we ended up with 43 days of operating cash, and then in 26, we're falling to 27 days. So we really do need to work on those alternative revenue sources. So right now, there are a lot of threats that are potentially could affect this forecast. So the first one, and I think there's 11 pending bills right now. I picked out the ones that are most impactful to us. House Bill 96 is the piggyback exemption, and what it allows is the Board of County Commissioners to double the 2.5% and the homestead credit by county, and some counties are doing this, but there's no reimbursement. And I'll show you later on the effect that that'll have on our budget. The state budget bill, House Bill 186, if you'll remember, when the governor proposed that, the House made all kinds of changes, and then when it went to the governor vetoed many of those changes. Well, now it's gone back to the House, and the House has till December 31st of 2026 to veto the vetoes. So they have vetoed what we're calling line 66, and that is a levy type bill. So they're saying that schools can no longer put replacement levies, and you can't put renewal levies with increases on the ballot, and that's specific to schools. The scary one on this is line 65, which is the 20 mil floor cap, and what that does is limits the growth of 20 mil floor districts to the 3-year rate of inflation. And going forward, that would hurt our district, which you'll see in the next slide, but they want to do it retroactive to the last reappraisal, which would be devastating to us. House Bill 309, that has actually passed the House last week, and it's moved on to the Senate. I gave you all a little synopsis on House Bill 309. In my opinion, this is kind of a direct attack on the board's authority. You as elected officials are elected by the constituents to run this district, okay? Set policies, hire people to run this district. House Bill 309 essentially grants the Budget Commission the authority to reduce the amount of tax dollars that are collected. And it's it's based on the necessity to avoid unnecessary or excessive collections. And excessive collections is what is disturbing. Our legal counsel at OWASBO is saying that potentially could mean that if something is not statutory, that the Budget Commission could override the board and say, we think your class sizes are too small, or you have too many aides for special needs students, or we don't need sports, or you don't need to provide this busing. So it doesn't make sense for another elected official to override a board that was elected to make those decisions. House Bill 420 is going to eliminate continuing levies. House Bill 422 would raise the voter approval threshold, and I believe it's just for school levies, above 1 mil to be 60%, or if it's between 1 and 2 mils, I'm sorry, 60% for 1 to 2 mils, or 66% for over 2 mils. So they would change what the majority is. And then, we always talk about unfunded mandates. Just this week, I had a request from the high school that they believe their College Credit Plus books budget is going to exceed what they asked for. So, we had an additional $7,500 in books that we're going to have to expend this year. And then, transportation to parochial schools. We're spending almost $277,000 a year to that. And then, of course, a threat is also, the economy. So this next slide, I try to depict what the two scariest bills right now would do to our forecast. So you can see in 2026, we have $1.7 million we're ending with, okay? So if that piggyback exemption, we would lose about $320,000. If they do retroactive on the 20 mil floor growth, that would be almost $1 million. So we would be ending this year with $462,000. So carrying that through, you can see, by 2027, we're $1.4 million in a deficit. So when these bills will be voted on, I do not know. We look daily. We're engaging our legislatures as much as possible. I've personally written letters to all our legislators talking about what this would do. So I encourage the board to continue talking to everybody. So how did we get here? I started with this district in 2009. So I've been treasurer under 4 different funding formulas. So first there was the building block model, and that was in 2009. At this time, the state was funding 42% to schools, and local was picking up the difference. And then 2010, 2011, we switched to the evidence-based model, and that dropped the state funding down to 39%. And then we went into the longest funding formula in my career, the bridge formula or temporary funding formula. And that dropped school funding down to 37%. And so right now we're under the Fair School Funding Plan, which is 32%. But as you recall, the legislature said, we can't afford to fund this. So I think I send this to you guys often. The current balance of the rainy day fund is $3.5 billion. And it's interesting to look back. You all know about the DeRolf case where the DeRolf filed with the Supreme Court and said that the way the state of Ohio funded education was unconstitutional. And at that time, when that case was filed, the state was funding 43.8%. So we've continued to fund less and less of schools. And I think we can all agree that we're all taxed to death. And I understand the outrage by taxpayers, and they want relief. So people ask me all the time, what can we do? What can we say to our legislature? I personally think the first thing we have to do is public schools should be a choice. You know, we have vouchers. You hear about vouchers in the news, that parents should have the choice. But public school isn't one of those choices. And I don't think that's fair. I think we also need to level the playing field between public and private. You know, we have unfunded mandates that we're required to do, plus, you know, all the different transportation and College Credit Plus. That's a really important program, but parochials don't need to provide that by law, but we are. And then finally, I think the state needs to fund their share of public education.
So I'm going to jump in here at the end when we talk about the what now. So what now? And I'm going to approach this from a sense of cautious optimism. So what I can tell you is that if none of those harmful House bills that Mrs. McCaffrey talked about go into effect, we can cut some expenditures, add some revenue generators. We would be okay. It wouldn't be great, but we would be okay. We would make our way like we've been making our way. And we are working on creating more revenue generating programs. Like we said, our workforce pathways will generate revenue for us without putting any extra strain on this building or our K-12, because they're on another campus. Our preschool program is generating additional revenue without putting extra strain on the K-12 because it's operating out of its own building. We're talking about starting an alternative program that would also be housed over at the workforce campus, which would bring in some additional revenue from the outside, because we are pretty highly sought after for the opportunities that we're giving our kids, because that has directly led to the increase in graduation rate and the increase in on-task behavior and the increase in kids wanting to participate in those programs. So we have other districts asking to get their kids in there. So I believe the first thing that I'm going to try to do is build some more of those revenue generating programs so that we can bring in some funding. The other thing is companies will start paying for those. I mean, Preston has been a huge help to us. They've donated a lot. They've paid for a lot of renovations. They've helped this program. The main instructor of the mechanical tech program is a Preston mechanic. So they've been a great partner. And we have other partners that want to participate in similar ways that we will reach out to. So we have some opportunities to generate some revenue that would not just add on to the backs of local taxpayers. But short of that, and these things happening, we really are going to need everyone to contact your legislators. And just like Mrs. McCaffrey said, the things you want to tell them are, public schools are or should be a choice. If a student chooses to leave their own public school and come to our public school because we're more desirable, that is meritocracy at its finest. We should be rewarded for that. We should get the same voucher that any private, parochial, or charter school gets for those kids to leave their public school and go there. That is number one, and that is in the fabric of being an American. We love competition and we want competition, bring it. But like Mrs. McCaffrey said, put us on a level playing field. The next thing is no more extra expenditures. If private, parochial, and charter schools are getting a hefty voucher at the high school level, it's $8,500 per student per year. Why should we have to pay for their transportation? The argument that's been made in the past has been they're also taxpayers. None of them are paying $8,500 a year in taxes, and they're getting that per child per voucher. So tell your legislators the public schools should not be paying for anything at a private, parochial, or charter school because they are getting more than they're putting in for taxes in that voucher. And then the last thing is tell the state to support the local property tax relief by funding a greater portion of schools in Ohio. In our district in particular, the state is funding 32%. To me, a shared funding model should be closer to 50-50. Tell your legislators you need to get back to adequately sharing the resources, because what happens, people will look at their tax bill. They'll say, my tax bill's going up. The majority of my money goes to schools. Schools are getting more money. When in reality, schools are getting the same amount of money. We just happen to be getting more of local money coming out of your pocket because the state has decided to fund less of it. So you elect those people. Tell them to pay their fair share. Outside of that, the really only other choices we have are operating levies, which would be income tax or property tax, or staff cuts or consolidation talks. And I think that's ultimately, where the state wants to drive us, to consolidation talks. That's not necessarily the best thing for everyone, but those are the options, and that's kind of the what now. And I think from our side, like I said, we're looking at those revenue generating programs and those partnerships that'll bring in revenue that will help. It really won't alleviate much on the taxpayer, on the property taxpayer, because they're being levied those taxes every year. But definitely having us pay no more expenditures to privates, parochials, or locals, giving the public schools that same voucher for, not for our regular students, but for the open enroll students for sure. That would be a huge support. If Berkshire were to get the same voucher that a private parochial charter gets for open enroll, we would have no financial problems. We would be absolutely A1, ready to roll. And then the state needs to support us. There's a $3.5 billion rainy day fund, and the clouds are pretty dark outside. So they need to use that to help fund schools. Other than that, there aren't very many other popular options for us. Any questions from the board?
3 questions for Beth. First, Beth, when are reappraisals for the properties again?
So for 27, we will be under an update. So every 6 years, there's a full reappraisal where the county auditor is supposed to visit every single parcel and look at the property. And then every 3 years is an update. So this is an update. So basically, they're looking at sales trends from arm's length transactions. And I pulled that data. So that's where when I said I upped our real estate update from 8% to 12%. It's trending, I will tell you, higher than that. But in anticipation of that 20 mil growth cap, I looked, and the rate of inflation, the 3-year average is 13%. So that's why I kept it at 12.
So 27.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Second question. We've heard about this ever since it came into existence, but it doesn't seem like we receive much, if any, Ohio lottery money, or even the money for gambling.
So the Ohio lottery money is no longer kept in a separate fund at the state level. It's commingled into their general operating. So I believe it's just been supplanted And so there's really no way to see it. Now, the casino revenue is kept in a separate fund. So for this year, we're getting about $90,000. It's about $66 per kid on the casino money.
Okay. Last question. How many children do we have that are receiving vouchers in our district?
Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so in 2023, we had what they say is less than 10. I believe we had 4 children on vouchers. In 2024, we went up to 69. 11 of those children were considered low income, 58 were not. And then in 2025, our numbers are at 103. 20 are low income and 83 are not.
I want to make one point of clarification because it sounds like 109 of our kids left us for a voucher. That's not accurate. While some of our students did leave and take a voucher, the vast majority of those vouchers are kids that never set foot in Berkshire local schools and just decided they had their entire life had been at a private parochial or charter school, and now that voucher is universal, they're applying for it and taking it. So it's not that we're losing kids, because clearly in our enrollment you see that we're holding stable. It's that, and again, yes, some left, very few, like less than 15, but of that 109, a lot of those never set foot in our district and never intended to.
And Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, we're paying for their vouchers, but we're also, they can do transportation or in lieu of and get paid for that as well.
And also special services, right?
Correct. So some of our Title I monies has to be set aside for non-public education. If they have a child that requires speech therapy and they have an IEP, the district's required to send somebody over to service that child according to their IEP.
Okay, I'm done with my questions. Anyone else?
I just want to reiterate how dangerous this House Bill 186 is if it stands as is, not just for our school, which it would be devastating, but for not most, but a lot of rural schools in our state. Over the 3 years, and Mrs. McCaffrey was showing us, it's about 14% of our funding. There are schools out there that are going to lose 24% of their funding over the 3 years of the same period. Urban center schools will lose 0% of their funding. And they are turning rural school districts into political war zones. And this is by design. Like Dr. Stoddard said, this is a push to make some things happen in public schools that a lot of us don't want. So I recommend that you do your own homework. It's not hard to figure out what this stuff is going to do to us. It's not just us fear-mongering, I promise you that. It's scary. This is kind of a turning point. It's been a long time coming, but if that thing passes as is, we're in big trouble.
Well, and Dan, to that point, it isn't just us.
No, right. No, I mean
Rural
public schools. Yeah.
Throughout the state, and it makes up a huge percentage. While everybody thinks the biggest percentage is urban schools, it's not true, because there's more rural schools. They all will be in trouble.
Yep.
It isn't just us.
Nope.
Not that I want our taxpayers to be concerned about us, but you're affecting the education of hundreds of thousands of kids.
But it's also not just affecting schools. It's affecting, townships and, other government agencies as well. So people forget about that too.
No,
Thank you, Beth. That was outstanding.
Yep, great.
Thanks.
not exciting.
So can I have a motion to approve the 5-year forecast for submission to the Ohio Department of Workforce and Development?
So moved.
Brian,
A second.
Linda,
Me.
Jody, Linda. Any further discussion? Roll call, Beth, please.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
And Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you, Beth. Superintendent's report.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following personnel, certified and classified, as listed.
So moved.
I'll second it.
That's Linda.
That was Linda.
Any further discussion? Roll call, Beth.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following volunteers as listed.
So moved.
Dan.
I'll second.
That's Joe.
That's me.
Any discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following overnight trips: girls soccer to Grove City, middle school cross-country state meet in Columbus, and wrestling tournament to Defiance, Ohio.
I'll make a motion.
Linda,
Second.
Brian. Brian, how many kids do we have going?
Uh,
How many?
13.
13 kids to the state meet.
Congrats on your CVC championship, coach.
Thank you.
Mm.
It was all me, of course.
Yep.
I don't think I ran a mile.
Any further
They are hard
discussion?
workers.
Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
I would like to request a motion to approve the following contracts as attached.
So moved.
Second.
Dan and Brian. Just a quick question, John. Special Olympics Unified Champion Schools Partnership Agreement. Can you expand a little bit? on that?
Sure, yeah, they would like to use our facility for some Special Olympics activities.
Nice.
Great.
Any track? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it'll be out on the track. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
I believe they're outdoor activities.
Any further discussion? Beth, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mr. Berman?
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Old business,
None for me.
new business.
Just what we had already.
Okay, make a note of this. If you plan on coming, our next board meeting is the third Monday, because we will be in Columbus for the Ohio School Boards Conference. So that is November 17th. That's my wife's birthday. Very important to
Birthday,
know.
Deb.
She'll be 65 if anybody wants to know.
Mm.
And the booster bash is on your birthday.
And that's on my birthday. And I'll be 68. So that's November 17th here in the auditorium at 6 p.m. Beth or John, do we have any need for executive session?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
I
second.
need a second.
Seconded.
Dan.
Mr.
Beth, roll
Berman?
call.
Yes.
Mr. Manfredi?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming and your patience. Spread the word. Get a hold of your legislators.